So, I guess it's time to talk about what happened today. Today I had 4 rides. 2 of them were long, and 2 of them were short. The long ones were pleasant. Actually, I'd say of the 4, 3 of the 4 were pleasant. One of them wasn't quite so nice, but I shouldn't judge. The first person was going to the airport, and we got into a great conversation. That was pretty fun. The second person coming away from the airport to downtown Sacramento, he seemed to be struggling, a little bit of pain. It's probably due to his chosen profession. And we stopped by a fast food restaurant on the way to his hotel. That was hardly any time, so I didn't feel like it was much out of my day. And he did tip me. The third was a couple of guys going to get lunch at a local non-fast food restaurant, and they were pretty young fellows. And the last was a woman and her mom and sister coming back from celebrating her 28th birthday. And they asked me also to stop. It was so quick. They were just down the street. It really wasn't very far. I didn't feel like it was a problem to go do that, and I asked her, as long as you're not going to open the car, I don't mind if you bring it. Now, this is the part that really fascinates me. In fact, I would honestly say it gets me out on the road more than just getting to talk to new people. I really like doing data analysis, and I get to present that data to my audience, whoever they may be. So far, I've only done 11 trips. And I'm doing, let's say I did 2 the first day, 5 the second day, and 4 today. And it's mostly because I got out late and I had another thing I had to do, so I didn't really get all the trips. I would have liked to have done a full day's instead of just 3 hours of work. But the thing I find interesting is figuring out what the trends are in each of these. I'm earning roughly $11 per ride. That means that I'm driving roughly 11 miles per ride, because it tends to come out to about $1 per mile. If I include my bonuses and tips, I'm making about $15 per ride. So I'm just trying to ignore the tips as if it's just a bonus money and not even part of my normal pay. The fellow who inspired me, he was getting 3 to 3.5 rides per hour. I have not come anywhere close to that. I'm getting at best 2.5 rides per hour, and at worst 1.6 rides per hour. So I'm also making more money per ride, but it's not, I can't match his numbers. So even if I do 5,000, it will definitely not be in the same amount of time that he did it. If I'm actually driving someone, my per hour rate is about $27 or $28. That's without bonuses. Just while I'm driving somebody, just while there's someone in my car. When there's people in my car, I'm making $27.75 an hour as of right now, on average. And with tips, it's closer to $34 an hour. I think those sound like great numbers. So it's actually legitimately possible for somebody to make roughly $30 an hour just driving Lyft. But that doesn't include the amount of time that I'm in the app but not doing anything. Well, it's obviously less because I'm spending more time not getting paid for it. Basic earning per hour is just what I make. No tips, no bonuses, just the flat amount of money that Lyft pays me to drive someone somewhere. I'm making $17.50 an hour, so $17.50 or so. But if I include all the tips and bonuses, as of right now, I'm making $25 an hour. That's including all the time I'm not doing anything. I want to make a distinction. There's 3 different kinds of time. There's time driving someone's in my car, I'm getting paid. There's time in the app but not driving someone. And then there's time getting to and from, whether I leave my house or don't get a ride back to my house. I spend all this extra time, that's personal time. If I'm not on the clock, as it were, I technically count that time as anything because I'm not in the app, so I'm not on the clock. So I'm not technically getting paid unless someone's in my car, but to look at time overall, how much money are you making when you're actually working in the app with a passenger or not? Without tips, $17.50. With tips, $25 an hour. Now to talk about this stuff is a little more deep. I want to do projections. I want to say, if I work a certain number of hours in a month, how much money I will make based on my current numbers. Now, with those current numbers, some of the stuff is going to be possible and some of it's not going to be possible at all. Like, you can't work more than 14 hours in a day. So how many hours in a day based on a typical work month? That's 21.67 days of work per 30-day span. I used to round it up to 22, it's just easier. So 22 days a month of normal work. That's 5 days a week in a typical month. Lyft wants me to work 130 rides in the first month, and they'll guarantee me $110. So I wanted to know, well, based on my current number of rides per hour, how many hours of work per day in a typical month, 5-day work week month, would I have to work in order to accomplish 130 hours? Well, there's kind of a factor beyond that. If I work 130 rides in a month, not 130 hours, but 130 rides in a month, at my current price per ride, I'll definitely exceed the number that they think I should hit. So they're guaranteeing me $1,100 for 130 rides. I will definitely make more than that before I hit 130 rides. It would be more like 104 rides and I'll hit $1,100. So the guarantee that they're saying, I already have if I do it. So I wanted to know, based on this other fellow I've talked about before, his name's Artie, if I use Artie's numbers and try to work 640 rides in a month, how much money would I make? Or for that matter, how many hours would it take? Well, if I could do 640, which I don't think I will be able to do just because there just aren't enough hours in a month to do it, but with Lyft's limitation, I'd make about $7,000 in that month with no tips and about $10,000 with tip based on my averages. I don't know that that number will be accurate. It's just an average to project. But the number of hours needed to do that, I have to work 9 hours every single day of the month, not just every single weekday or every single, 5 days a week kind of thing. 9 hours every day of the entire month to pull off 640 rides in my market. It's possible. I'm not going to do it. So where are my numbers falling? What do I plan on doing? What would I like to do in order to get the amount of money I want? Well, I'd like to get somewhere around $4,000 to $5,500 a month. So how many hours do I have to work? Well, if I work a typical 5-day work week, to looking at my bare minimum, it's about 6.5 hours a day with no tips. So what I'm looking at is, less than a typical work day in order to make my bare minimum. But if I get all the tips I normally get and still work that bare minimum, I'll make quite a bit more. So let's say I did 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for a whole month, based on my current numbers, I'll make $4,500. It comes to me that if you're a good driver, you're going to get tips. And interestingly enough, nobody tips less than like 30%. It still blows me away. Obviously, these rides aren't very expensive. But I did have one ride today where the total distance was 2 miles. That was actually my last ride. And it was $3.65 for the ride. And they tipped me $3, which is almost 100%. It's actually 80%, but almost 100% of the ride cost. Now, granted, it was taking 3 people, but, it worked out. $6 for 3. I'd take 3 people 2 miles for $6. That's fine. I'm not disturbed by the costs or the way that they're doing it. Honestly, Lyft is making a pretty good example of how things work. And so far, the numbers have been interesting. I'm looking forward to more data. Tomorrow's Saturday, and we're going to see how many rides I can get in one day. Probably going to work more hours than just 3.